Great. Well, welcome everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. Can folks hear me okay? We have a brand new sound system here. Okay, David, thank you for the thumbs up. Let me just start by thanking the string quartet. That was just a beautiful way to start our meeting. Thank you so much. As Bruce Tamlin would say, this is truly a beautiful Silver Bay day. What an incredible day we've been blessed with today. For those who don't know me, I'm Joel Wattenbarger. Okay, Sarah, do I need to? I'm only asking because there's this little looks like a mute button. Do I need to press that or no?
No, it's connected to our Zoom.
Okay. Okay, is this better? I don't think.
That should work.
Hey, all right, that's why he's the CEO and I'm. So as I was saying, for those who don't know me, I'm Joel Wattenbarger. I am the Chief Volunteer Officer of Silver Bay. I welcome you all to our annual meeting. I will begin with an apology because Elise is offering the opening words at our board meeting in an hour, not at this annual meeting. So disregard her name on the meeting agenda. Let me just offer a brief opening prayer, and then we'll get into our meeting. Dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful place. We thank you for the people who love and treasure it so much, for the healing that it provides to us when we're here. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we receive today's reports in this meeting, as we deliberate throughout the course of the day. And we ask that you look over all who are here as they return to their homes, and all who are unable to be with us here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy Fisher, our board secretary, for the approval of our minutes from last year's meeting.
Okay. Great, thank you. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention first that the office of the secretary remains well stocked with many leather-bound books and the smell of rich mahogany. We have one agenda item for today, which is to approve last year's general meeting. You can find the minutes in your posts. First, I would like to make a call for any amendments or comments to meeting minutes from last year's meeting. So are there any comments or amendments to last year's minutes? Seeing none, I will make a call for a motion to approve last year's minutes. And I have a motion to approve. All right, thank you. I have a second. Maury, thank you. So the minutes are approved. That's back to Joel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And so next we have our treasurer's report from Melissa Adams.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm pleased to be with you this morning to share our treasurer's report.
Closer.
Hello again. I hope you can hear me now. And thank you for joining today. And thank you for your active support of Silver Bay. Whether through your presence here today or your encouragement of friends and family to continue to visit this beautiful and unique place that we so much love, or thank you for your volunteer efforts, whether it's through the council or helping with tidy time. And finally, thank you for your generous financial support. It would not be a treasurer's report if I did not thank you for the important generosity that I survey and to our business. So I appreciate the opportunity today to share with you some highlights from Silver Bay's 2023 financial performance, and then also briefly discuss our current thinking and status for 2024. You'll find sort of midway through the annual report a more detailed picture of our 2023 financials, which Melita, our spectacular Chief Financial Officer, and I have attempted to make as clear as possible. So starting with our operating results, we had 2023 operating revenue of $5.3 million, which represents a 15% increase from 2022 $4.6 million, which reflects continued recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the desire of families and conferences to reunite and reconnect at our beautiful and restorative campus. I want to give a huge congratulations to Silver Bay's leadership and staff who've been able to achieve revenue levels which now exceed our pre-pandemic 2019 levels. Again, we're having many new conferences and events, weddings, and many other activities that I'm sure Peter will discuss further. On a less positive note, our operating expenses continue to increase and do exceed revenue. We had a 16% increase year over year in expenses, primarily due to increased staffing costs, which really represent an investment in the Silver Bay organization to create an even better Silver Bay, and also to support our future growth as well as our missional care. Inflation, though moderating from the, from the prior year, was also a factor. And across the U.S., we saw figures for 2023 up, 3.4% for the year, with food prices rising by 5.8%. And we are not immune to higher inflationary costs, and we were definitely affected by these pressures as well. The staff actively sought to manage these, and as a result, our operating gap for 2023 was approximately $3.4 million, which was $500,000 higher than our 2022 deficit before depreciation. I want to add that the deficit was anticipated and reflected a conscious decision by the board to invest in Silver Bay's growth, which is now on an increasingly positive trajectory, which we will talk about later this morning. Historically, giving from the Silver Bay community has been a critical resource for our nonprofit viability. And this year, our community again showed strong support for our mission, with unrestricted giving topping $1.6 million, which was an amount that surpassed last year's generosity by over $300,000. And in addition, we continue to benefit from another incredibly generous gift from the Rowan Foundation that enabled us to retire all the debt we incurred to build the Willie Boyd Center, which is a key part of the campus that is central to the future growth of Silver Bay. And we are extremely grateful to the Rowan Foundation, which has gifted over $6 million to the Silver Bay YMCA. After accounting for the generous support of our donors, Silver Bay ended the year with a $1.5 million deficit. And this deficit was funded through a loan that features a flexible 10-year repayment period. And I'm pleased to report that we're already making principal payments to reduce this level. We also continue to maintain a $1 million line of credit that is fully available to us, as well as other resources to support our liquidity and operations. Silver Bay's leadership and staff have done an outstanding job hiring and retaining key talent that have been prudently managing our resources on our behalf, implementing innovative programming and strategies to manage through these difficult financial challenges and position us for long-term health and sustainable growth. Let me now turn briefly to 2024 and report that we are on a positive trajectory relative to 2023. We continue to invest in our staff and capabilities, again, for long-term sustainability, while we expand our missional purpose to support Silver Bay as well as our surrounding communities. In addition, thanks to the diligent efforts of our senior staff, we received 2 substantial one-time pandemic-related payments that will substantially reduce our deficit and help our bottom line. These results reflect funds that we've received from the federal government for an employee retention tax credit, as well as a New York State grant. And again, funds from these 2 items will materially benefit our 2024 position and largely offset the operational loss that we do expect for 2024. As we work together to preserve and evolve this very special place that we love and treasure, it will be critical to continue to improve our operating results while also retaining and enhancing support from our donors that help sustain our beautiful campus and unique mission for over a century. So in closing, we thank you very much for your generosity to Silver Bay, and we do ask for your continued support, which again is mission critical to our success. We are focused on reducing our operating gap and investing for the future. And on behalf of Melita, our CFO, and her team, as well as the board, we hope this report has helped provide context for where we are this year. And thank you again for your continued support.
Sorry, you are absolutely right. And Natalie is not able to be with us today, so Debbie Wattenberger is going to deliver the council report.
Hi, everyone. As I said, I'm Debbie Wattenberger, and I am the vice president of the council. I'm here on behalf of Natalie Schatz, who is the president. And the other leadership that we have in the Silver Bay Council is Ben Rumbaugh, who is our treasurer, and Chris Kleinheinz, who is our secretary, and we're in these positions until August 2025. So as most of you know, Silver Bay Council is an auxiliary group of Silver Bay, and in the 1960s, it's basically when we started. And we have had many times to come and have avenues of volunteering throughout the year and participate in fundraising activities and support Silver Bay in their organizational needs and help the board and the administration as much as we can, and when needed, to ensure Silver Bay remains the vibrant and retreat for all of us. So our big things that we do for the Silver Bay Council is the council volunteer weekends, and we have a fall weekend and a spring weekend. Just a little bit about what we've done the last 2 weekends. So in fall 2023, we had the all-hay yard sale that we helped with. We cleaned out and inventoried cottages. We replaced finger ducts at the boathouse, trail maintenance, and cleared brush throughout the campus. And this past spring of 2024, we were busy again, and we got a lot done to help get the campus ready for the summer season. We worked on trails again, tennis courts, did some raking and leaf blowing, worked in housekeeping to open Spruce Mountain Lodge and help open Spruce Mountain Lodge and Payne Hall. We cleaned the children's pavilion. We cleaned benches and chairs from the beaches to the tennis courts to the auditorium. And we also had some fun family projects. So some of our younger volunteers were involved around the grounds and trails and so that was great. We had a great time. We always do. We also this spring were the first to use the new Silver Bay volunteer portal, which I highly suggest you take a look at. It's a great way to see what is available and opportunities to volunteer. And you don't have to be a council member to volunteer at all. So speaking of volunteering, our hours that we've logged. So in 2023, council members logged approximately 560 volunteer hours. And this year so far, we're about 256 hours. And I know what we do as volunteers is more than just money, but if you look at it and you multiply those hours by $15 per hour, we get $12,240. That's not bad, right? That's not including the additional payroll fees and employer taxes that Silver Bay is taking on that. So, yeah. The other thing is we don't just give our time. We do have allocations that we did, and overall since 2005, since we started keeping the digital record, Silver Bay Council has donated $114,313 to Silver Bay for various work projects and various needs around campus. Last fall, we donated money for the cleaning and holding unit for the catered events, like the wonderful lobster boil that we have. And this past spring, we donated gift cards to our summer staff for any of their unexpected needs that come up, especially our international staff that come over and maybe, just forgot to bring that bug spray or something like that they need. We also sponsored the Staff International Night. We've done that the last couple of years, which has been a lot of fun for everyone. The International Night. It's focused on the food and having a good time, but it's for all staff. This summer, we also just approved an allocation from Bill Cruzy requesting to buy cane materials to help refurbish our wonderful rocking chairs, and we can all help to do that actually in the craft shop, so you can take a look at that too. As of July 31st, we have approximately $6,000 to be available to allocate, so we can think about fun things and needed things at Silver Bay. If we have them, you can let us know. In order to get this money, so far we've had a couple of fundraisers recently, and we are currently selling puzzles in the store. One is of a picture of the boathouse, and another showcases a Kathy Becker watercolor, a slim point. It's a beautiful one. It is very hard, just so you know. Be prepared. And then we also have these wonderful, beautiful ornaments that Natalie Schatz created, and then some of us hand painted. Natalie, Carolyn Heschley, me, Kirsty, and myself. They are in the store. They are absolutely beautiful, so you can take a look at those too. And finally, we have a raffle for $1,600 gift certificate to use for possible reservation for next year. Annual membership, Silver Camp, just not all that for ice cream. Yeah. Okay, the next council weekend, and I'm ending here, is November 8th to 11th. It is a work play weekend, also known as Tiny Tide. And I hope if you haven't been to one that you come, because they really are a fun time to be here. And it's great to be here when it's a little quieter with regards to the season, although it's busy all year round now, which is great. So there is special deal if you're staying and working on campus, but you are required to work 6 hours a day to be eligible for the special rate. But like I said, it's an excellent time to be on campus. So I hope you guys can join us. Finally, as a reminder, anyone can become a member of Silver Bay Council. You can find us online at silverbaycouncil.org. You can find Carolyn Heschley, who's around. She's our membership chair, and that's all for me. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Debbie. So, as I thought about delivering today's TVO report, my mind traveled back to a few years ago, the first time I spoke to this meeting. And at that time, I observed that although I had been coming to Silver Bay for many years, I was still primarily known around campus by virtue of my relations to others. I was either Don and Joanne's son-in-law, or Debbie's husband, or Lucy and Keith's father. They were both imps at that time. And I said jokingly that while I love to be known in that way, I hope someday to have my own reputation at Silver Bay. And friends, be careful what you wish for. But if the evidence of being buttonholed on the end porch, outside the chapel, by the pickleball courts and Slim Point, my calls, texts, and emails are any indication, my cover has been well and truly blown. And listen, I very much appreciate all of the input that I receive from members of this community. It is, of course, an indication for how deeply people care about this place, and that's a blessing. I will share with you that as I sort of sift through those outreaches, first of all, in many cases, I direct folks to Peter because he's really the one who's running this place day to day, along with our very capable staff. But in terms of sort of bigger picture strategic questions, ideas about new initiatives or courses of action at Silver Bay, things that folks think we should be doing, which we certainly hear a lot of. I think about those things kind of through two lenses, right? The first is our mission, right? And so for those who haven't, thought about our mission recently, I'll just read it. To foster relationships, strengthen communities, and nurture spirit, mind, and body for all. So if folks are proposing new things at Silver Bay, one of the questions I always immediately go to is, does this further our mission? Right? Is this aligned with our mission? Is it missional? As we converted our mission to a strategic plan within the board a couple of years ago, we took from that mission a few pillars, and one is financial sustainability, right? And so the other lens that I look at when folks are proposing new things, big and small, but especially big, is this moving the needle in the direction of financial sustainability? Is it not really moving the needle at all, or is it even moving us away from financial sustainability, right? Old saying, no money, no mission, right? And so while mission is super important, financial sustainability is an important part of that as well. We spend a lot of time, because we're all so passionate about this place, talking about and thinking about issues that are probably not really directly related to mission, and often aren't going to move the needle in a significant way, or may even move the needle in the wrong way from a financial sustainability standpoint. And so I just share with you that that's the lens through which I look at things that come to me in my capacity as CVO, that the board looks at things as they come to us as a board. And I share that with you. You may find it helpful to think about the things that you raise up through those lenses as well. Let me share a few examples of ways in which the board, working in partnership with Peter and the staff, are driving change here at Silver Bay. And I've just got three specific examples from the last year, and different shapes and sizes. But the first is, we continue to update and modernize our program offerings. And the specific example I'll call out here is the new high ropes course. And a couple of years ago, after Peter joined the board, we went through an exercise where we did a survey of the surrounding area within a few hours' time. And we're really asking the questions, first, what do people even know about Silver Bay? But what are the sorts of offerings that would bring new guests and new conferences to Silver Bay who hadn't been here before? So trying to solicit data so that we're really making good data-driven decisions about how we expend our valuable resources. And one of those, offerings that would attract people, some would not be good fits for Silver Bay, but one of them was a high ropes course, and that's a great fit for us. So lo and behold, now we have a high ropes course. If you haven't been back there, it's behind the council ring. I went with a group of teens and 20-somethings, and I was the 150-something this summer when I was here in July. It was a heck of a lot of fun. I have not yet convinced Michelle Hay and the rest of the board to do a, board team building exercise up high up in the trees, but I'm still working on it. But just a small example, but an example of how we're trying new things, but we're doing it in response to data that we've collected about, what will bring people here. Second example of change. We hopefully most folks know already that we will be operating a new child care center for young children in Ticonderoga starting this fall. Yes, thank you. This is a really exciting development. And again, as I sort of trace through, at least at board level, we had a meeting just 1 year ago this weekend It was a panel that was organized by our IDEA committee. It was an opportunity for us to hear from and engage with leaders in our local community. And amongst other things, talk about the relationship between our local geographic community in Silver Bay, ways that we could serve that community. And one of the things that came from that session loud and clear was there is a critical need for early child care in Ticonderoga. And so over the course of the last year, thanks very much to the efforts of Peter and Uriah, and in partnership with the Thai Alliance, we've come to an agreement to operate this child care center starting this fall. I think it is, nothing could be more aligned with our mission. Part of our mission is to strengthen communities, and this is a critical aspect of strengthening that community in all sorts of ways. We've received questions. I've certainly received questions, can we do this at a time when we face financial challenges here on campus? Why now? Couldn't there be another time when we do this? What I would say is a couple things. First of all, we've been, I think, really thoughtful and diligent about structuring this program and our relationship with the Thai Alliance in a way that minimizes sort of financial risk to Silver Bay. But I also come back to those two screens, right? I think this is right in the heart of our mission. And I actually am very much of the belief that showing that we can do these sorts of things for our local communities will drive our ability to attract more grants, to raise more funds for Silver Bay by leaning into our mission. And so I'm so thankful for everyone who's played a part in that effort. And the third is really in the nature of a work in progress, but I want to flag for you that as a board, we directed Silver Bay to engage in a study over the last year of our campus, some of our critical buildings on campus that I think we all know are in need of real updating and modernization. And we have a report. We hired outside consultants. Again, we're looking to have good data to drive our decisions. What can we do? What would kind of generate the greatest return, the biggest bang for our buck? We are now in the process of analyzing the report we have and mapping out next steps. There will surely be more to come on this, but I'm excited about what the future holds in terms of modernizing our campus. I hope you are as well. Let me just close with two closing thoughts. I want to start by thanking Silver Bay's staff for their hard work and dedication to this place, as I've had a chance to interact with them over the years as an imp, a guest, a board member, and now over the last 2 years as CBO. I'm just so impressed by how much they put into this place every day. I could name lots of names, but I'm going to just maybe embarrass one person and call out Melita Horgan, who's sitting back in the corner there. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Melita has done an unbelievable job over the last year, and I'm sure many were at the town hall recently. Peter was kind of brave enough to share some of his health challenges over the last 9 months. Melita's got a very difficult job at any time. She's just stepped up in amazing ways over this last year, and in the face of all sorts of challenges, I feel like any oddball thing that was happening was, somehow related to Melita's job over the last year. And just Melita, thank you. We couldn't do what we do without you. And then secondly, I want to thank Peter and ask all of you to continue to support Peter and the board and the staff as we work to bring impactful change to Silver Bay. When we hired Peter 2.5 years ago, the board hired him to be a change agent. Change is a difficult thing at times for Silver Bay, but that was very purposeful on our part. He's already delivered change in all sorts of positive ways. He's made terrific hires on the staff. We have, new innovative dining programming initiatives. We have, as I've said multiple times, a real data-driven approach to assessing kind of big changes and big projects. But what I will tell you is there's a lot more to come. I've been so impressed, particularly over the course of this year, where even as Peter has faced, some very difficult challenges, he has been, fully engaged every step of the way. I have great confidence in his leadership, great confidence in his staff, and great confidence that the change that has already occurred, but the change to come will result in a stronger Silver Bay position to continue to carry out our mission for decades to come. So with that, I thank you all again for being here, and I will turn the microphone over to Walt Linder for a development update.
Well, you can hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, so just a few updates from the development side of things. This year, as Joel alluded to, we have been heavily into mission-related grants. We have applied for 12 grants this year and have received every single one. Total is about $65,000, which is not a huge percentage of our bottom line, but we look at these as sort of gateway grants. These are funding agencies that fund the types of things that we do here at Silver Bay. And I look at these as ways that we attract these granting agencies. And once we show our stuff and show that we can really produce and show outcomes, they will support us at much greater levels in the future. We also have 5 grants pending right now with various agencies, state and federal governments, local funding agencies, well over $1 million worth of grants in the pipeline. So those are ways of funding future projects, including historic preservation work, the after-school programs, water and sewer improvements. So we're trying to line up future grants as we go. Also, at the same time, we're managing the major HUD grant for $1 million Citrus Gym, which is it has a fair amount of reporting burden because it's a federal grant and dealing with a huge federal bureaucracy. So that's an ongoing project. As far as unrestricted giving is concerned, we are well ahead of budget for our annual fund, but we still have a long way to go. We have a $1.5 billion goal. So I'm hoping that everyone will look carefully at their giving intentions for the year and really look to supporting Silver Bay on an unrestricted fund basis. We're looking at several appeals to help us get to that goal in the end, including appeals to local donors. We're having several individual donor meetings upcoming. We're really wonderful neighborhood meetings that have been very fruitful. We have a huge run up to the year end with a year-end appeal and a fall appeal. Some top donor appeals coming up. This year, for the first time ever, we've received several sponsorships for fireworks, which was the first time ever to do fireworks sponsorship for Memorial Day weekend and also for the July weekend. Golf sponsorships were solid this year, not as great as we hoped, but solid. We have sponsorships for our summer music series that increased from prior years, and our evenings of dance sponsorship that increased from prior years. And of course, we have some major gifts that are in the pipeline. And one that I want to announce today, which I think is news to everyone, Peter and I just closed this past week on a major 5-year commitment, total of $250,000 to improve and stabilize Swim Point in the area surrounding that. So that's the first grant of that size for Swim Point ever.
Thank you all for that excellent report. So last but not least, I will turn it over to Peter Dolliver for the CEO report.
Thank you, Joel. Much of what I'm going to share, if you've been to the town hall meeting or an EF meeting or a council meeting or a neighbor meeting, it's the same thing. So bear with me if you've heard this before. But before I start into that, this is our annual meeting and reflecting back on 2023 and then where we are now in 24. I do want to thank the staff, really an incredible group of people, and they have adapted and moved and changed as Silver Bay continues to evolve. And they're just such an amazing group of people who just love to serve more than they like to be served, and who really, really take care of our folks. I'm incredibly proud of them and very thankful to work with them. I also want to thank our volunteers, our donors, the council, the alumni fellowship, and everyone who just supports and gets involved with Silver Bay. We could not do this without you, and we're just really thankful for your continued vision and support and all that you do for Silver Bay. I want to thank Joel specifically. This is Joel's last 2 years as chair. It has been such a joy to work with him. And especially this last year, if you're not aware, what Joel was alluding to was I was diagnosed with stage 3B colon cancer last November. Had surgery in December and then did 6 months of chemo starting January of this year, just finished up in June. Have a 5-year prognosis of continued testing to see. My last CAT scan was clear. So as of my last CAT scan, there was no cancer. We'll continue that every 3 months for the next 5 years. And hopefully that'll continue. But Joel and the board have been incredibly supportive and just gave me and Gene and me time to recover and to heal. Folks in this room and neighbors brought us food every Tuesday night, which were treatment days and follow-up days, because all the treatment was an hour away in Glens Falls. This community is amazing. And the staff stepped up, and Melita stepped in to be me when I wasn't here and top everything else she was doing. And the staff just did amazing work. I just really want to thank everyone for that. And it just really, I think, exemplifies what a great organization we are and what a great community we are. So I want to say thank you for that. A couple updates just on some capital improvements. Some you will see, some you won't. For those of you that are familiar with Woodside, that's the cottage that's on the other side of 9N by the trailheads. That has been a staff housing for a number of years. It is no longer staff housing, so that's undergoing some updates. You'll see it painted probably this fall, and that's coming back in inventory. We're painting 3 other buildings on campus, Hillcrest, Hilltop, and Spangler. And we want to continue this every year, painting their buildings and keeping that upkeep. So it's like the Golden Gate Bridge. Once we're done, we'll start all over again. But we want to keep the building looking good. For those of you that stay in the inn, we now have a new boiler in the inn. I think the original one was older than the building, but now we'll have hot water for folks. We'll be adding some camping platforms down by the council ring. We're also, in fact, this is part of the council will be helping us with this fall. We're going to be installing new benches down in the council room, so that'll be renovated and stored. We are, for this building in Watson, we found out that for some reason these buildings are still on septic and not connected to our wastewater treatment. So as soon as we can find someone that will work with us to connect them, we're going to connect it over to the sewer, which I think will also help the lake. The fields are old and too close to the lake, so this will, I think, be helpful. And a couple of small things, better lighting in the main parking lot, removing beach sand, and some dead trees have been taken out. I just want to mention all of these things happen because people have given funding to us, whether it be in a board visiting fund or in other funds. So all the things happening here are coming out of donations. It does not come out of our regular operating expenses. So I just really want to thank folks who had that vision help us with that. A couple other updates, and you saw a little of my thunder, Joel, but I'll forgive you. No, it's all good. Walt referred to Fisher Gymnasium, so we did get $1 million from the federal government from HUD. If you're not familiar, the front part of the building was built in 1917, and it's about a ½ inch of wood between the inside and the outside. There's no wall, there's no insulation, there's no nothing in that front part of the building. The back part of the building was built in the 90s. It is heated, but not air conditioned, and air conditioning is becoming a bigger issue up here. So this funding will allow us to heat and air condition the entire building, but we want to do it as an historic renovation. So one of the grants that Walt has written is for $675,000 to help us do just that. And we're working with some other folks to make that happen. The reason we're investing in this is because the local community needs a place that they can congregate in the winter. If you don't live up here through the winter, it gets pretty dark and lonely. And so it is great that we want to have a place that people can come and be physically active, but also use the lounge in the center for a community sense so they can meet and congregate, but also help all of our year-round folks. And we can also offer more classes that help people with their stability and their health. So we believe this will be a good piece for Silver Bay and for our broader community. The high ropes course was mentioned, and Joel's absolutely right. This came out of our research. It's been very popular. There are families, we have found there are 500,000 families, a 2-hour driving radius, who want a place that is in touch with nature, where they can get some adrenaline going, that they can connect to Wi-Fi, they can get a good meal and have a comfortable bed to sleep in. There aren't many places like that but us, but 90% of those people don't even know we exist. So our marketing efforts have been specifically out to those families for seeing them come in. And High Ropes is a piece of that. I also want to mention that also came out of donor funds. None of that came out of our operating costs. And then the Child Care Center was mentioned. We're very proud of this. And as Joel said, this is in cooperation with the Thai Alliance. I just also want people to know that we are not at any financial risk with that operation. Thai Alliance is underwriting any losses for 5 years. So we have 5 years to establish it and in order to serve the families up in Ticonderoga. You'll also see some areas that we're not mowing. It's not because we don't care. It's because we're working with folks in order to have our grounds absorb more of the runoff coming down the mountain so it doesn't go into the lake. So a big change you'll see. You see some wildflowers out in front of admin. That was an experiment. It's working. It's come back for 2 years. So we're going to start spreading some wildflower seeds in some of the larger meadows. The grassy area between the chapel, maple, oak, and whitewood, we're going to let that grow tall and only mow it one time a year. We do it's like if you look at it from above, it looks like a city square. There's a big circle in the middle and then radiating out pathways. So there'll be pathways so you can walk through and not worry about ticks. You'll know that. We're going to let the grass grow up. And we'll do that in some other areas as well, but it's deliberate. We're not being lazy. It does help the environment. It also is less gas and pollutants going to the air. It also saves a little bit on labor because we're not mowing every other day. So it's great. In light of that, I do want to mention, and Walt mentioned this as did Joel, really leaning into our mission. We are a nonprofit organization, and it's important that we continue to demonstrate what we do as a nonprofit to better people's lives and to give back to our community. Walt works on a community benefit statement where we can demonstrate that what we give in value back to the community exceeds what we'd be paying in taxes, because that's a big issue for folks. You have a mile of shorefront on Lake George and property taxes go up and we don't pay them. But we deliberately work very hard to make sure what we give back to our community exceeds what we'd ever pay in taxes. But in light of that, I wanted to share a couple of things from the mission side that some people aren't always aware of. And I do want to say that with the exception of one thing we do that is mission related, they are underwritten and paid for. The only one that is not currently is the Teen Drop-In Center in Todd. And we are working with that through grants and donations to get that to a break even. And we're not going to abandon that work. I just want to be clear, that is the one that does have an operational loss. But everything else we're doing from childcare to some of the things I'm going to share now, they're all underwritten in one way or another. So in the last 12 months, there were 801 people who came through our pastoral respite. Now, if you're not familiar with it, this is Spiritual Life. It's primarily in the two buildings up on the hill over here, just above Adams Brook. This is underwritten by the Ingraves. It is a great vision that they have had so that individuals who are in any active ministry in any denomination of faith, their families can come here for a week for rest and relaxation, restoration. And to have over 800 folks come through that is a huge impact because these folks go back to their communities refreshed and renewed and make a huge difference in helping other people. So we're very proud to be able to do that. Another part of that, a lot of people don't know, is if you live in the immediate area and you are at risk of not having a place to live for whatever reason, whether you got burned out, whether you're in a domestic violence situation, or just hit on some really rough times and you couldn't pay the mortgage or the rent, we will take you in here. We did 17 families last year. They come here for free, and then our Spiritual Life folks work with them to help them get reestablished in the community and start over. And that's a quiet thing that we've never really publicized because when the people are here, we don't, put a red tag on them and say, hey, they're the people who got burned out. They're just part of our community. They're just here. But it's a really important service that we provide, and it really gives a lot back to the community. Over 18 months, I think this is a really impactful number. Through Spiritual Life, between our pastoral counseling, career counseling, marriage recovery, the worship services, weddings, memorial services, the classes we run, the prayer breakfasts, the prayer groups, over 6,800 individuals have been impacted by that. That's more than we've had in guests. So it's just a really vital and important part of the work we do. And I just want us to remember that everything we have here, from the EMPS to the inn, to every place that we have a head in the bed, to the boathouse, it is all a means to an end. It is all so we can impact and serve people. This is a healing, restorative, holy, special place. And we want as many people to come here and to be refreshed and renewed and healed by being here. And it's because of those services that we provide that bring people in, and because of all of you that support the work, we can do that. So as your CEO, I am so honored to be here, going into my third year. Gina and I are very privileged and blessed to be here. I'm very thankful for all of you and for your support.
Great, thank you, Peter. Last substantive item on the agenda is just a Q&A for Peter, so I will open the floor to any questions.
For all of us.
Or anyone else here. Paul, go ahead.
I'd like to say two things if I might.
Do you want the
Number
mic,
one-
Paul?
Peter, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Number one, I'm sure many of you have been, thank you. I hope that's better. No?
Yeah, a little closer.
Many of you have been to a couple, in the last 2 weeks, there have been 3 volunteer associations that are very big on the lake. There was the LGA that had their annual meeting at Sagamore. There was the Fort Ticonderoga that had their garden party at the fort. And there was the Lake George Land Conservancy that had their annual meeting right here. So I'd particularly like to thank Luke Callahan, for what he's done with that. It's just a tremendous job. And I think that's going to end up being a big profit center for us. And in addition to the Mountain View Grill, if you haven't tried that, it's an exceptional, excuse me, I'm having trouble with balance. Exceptional place to go and eat. Service is great, food is great. Second thing is not quite so positive. I'd like to follow up, if I might, Peter, with a question I raised to you at the meeting 2 weeks ago, was it? The town hall meeting. I asked about the Boyd Center and the water problems in particular. As I recall, your comment was we have a volunteer to pay for it, and you didn't want to retain a lawyer. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. I spent my whole working life on the receiving end of lawsuits. It wasn't funny. It was a very hard thing to deal with. But I would say this, that as much as I respect the architect in this, and he's the best architect around here, the 2 water problems with the floor and the water coming up the roof are serious problems that, in my humble opinion, are the direct result of a bad architectural recommendation, want to call it that, or design. I think the contractor did a fine job, in my opinion. I think that we should consider going to an attorney and having a lawsuit against the architect. He's a fine architect, but he made 2 mistakes in this building. And my guess is that there's a good chance that he will step up and make a contribution because he doesn't want his name drawn into some negative publicity. But this is a very vital thing for Silver Bay. It's going to involve, what, hundreds of thousands of dollars, Peter?
Yeah.
To repair it? I understand you did say we have somebody who will pay for it, or volunteer to step up, and
I'll explain that when you're done.
okay, well, I'm done.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, and I appreciate not only your passion, but your experience and your background professionally. So on 2 sides of this, the board has looked at this and we can look at it again, but the expense and the time in litigation against the cost of repairs, along with some other factors that I really can't talk about publicly, the decision of the board of management was that bringing a lawsuit in this case would not in the long term be beneficial for everyone involved. So that again, appreciate your comment, and I'm certain we'll spur the board to look at it again probably this afternoon.
Making a note right now.
You know, but the Rowan Foundation, when it paid off the mortgage, there was additional money left, about 170,000+, I believe. Is that right, later? And so they designated that for the repairs on Boyd. So we are in the process now of compiling all the things we need to do to make it a strong and viable building. And we do believe that those funds will cover the majority of that. We just have not scheduled that yet because we want to try to get it scheduled when we're not in use and then we can get everything done at one time. So to your point, it'll be addressing the roof leaks, the problem with runoff, the floor in the dining room, some of the HVAC work, the problems with moisture buildup in the kitchen, the lack of appropriate grab bars and handicap access materials in a number of our rooms. Some of the challenges with wayfinding, some of the challenges with the walls being damaged, some of the problems with the HVAC in the rooms leaking and not working, a number of things. So we will, and this is no shame or pointing fingers at anyone who was involved in this. Sometimes it just happens with buildings and we'll get it taken care of. Are there other questions or comments? Yes, Mark.
Well, I think there's a problem here with parking. I don't know, because we welcome.
I can hear.
We'll repeat.
I'll repeat.
We'll repeat.
I'll repeat.
I don't know if it's because we welcome everybody in the community to come here now, most things without that. But maybe we need to make Silver Bay Road one way. Because there's sometimes when you have to wait until you get, these guys go and then you go. The other thing is the road from 9N down to Silver Bay Road past the parking lot has its own little Grand Canyon right at the bottom. And that's been there pretty much all summer. Every once in a while it gets filled in a little bit and then it washes away again, but that's a problem.
So Marge's comment were three, if I heard you correctly. One was concerns about parking. That there's an ample parking and a concern that maybe we're inviting too many people in who aren't part of Silver Bay, kind of what some neighbors coming in. The second concern was with the traffic on Silver Bay Road and the recommendation make it a one-way. And the third piece was the maintenance road that runs down from the parking lot. So to the first one, parking is an issue here, and we recognize that. There are plans that we do have for expanding the parking. In all candor, what prohibits us right now is funding. So, there's a plan like down by the boathouse and through that area to improve parking and access for anyone to be able to get through the universal access places that you could sit and watch and be able to walk through with a wheelchair or a stroller. That's about $500,000. We don't have that right now to do that. We do shuttling from the parking lot. So we try to make that available and help folks. There are other places for parking. I don't know, Marge, that it's necessarily people in the neighborhood coming in, although we don't want to discourage people in the neighborhood coming in because that has been a big issue in the past. But I agree with you that we need to figure out some better parking pieces and we are working on it, but a lot of it is kind of this is not our street. Silver Bay Road belongs to the town of Hague. So if you want a petition to make it one way, you'd have to work with the town of Hague. We would probably not enter into that. It actually is beneficial for us being a two-way street, but I do recognize it's narrow and the increased traffic and on golf carts, I know it can be difficult. The maintenance road we are working on. Our challenge is, even though there's some leftover tar from years ago underneath, it's basically a dirt road. It is permeable. When we start looking at putting in impervious surfaces in, we run into a whole different thing with the Park Commission. So Walt has been working with some folks and working on some outside funding to see if we can put something in there that will be permeable, but also permanent. The amount of rain we had last year and then these flash storms that come in, it runs down there. It is an issue. It is a big gully. So we go back down, we grade it, we fill it. We're working on a permanent solution. We're just not there yet. But thank you. Yes, sir.
Joe Maury, just a question, if you could touch on what the incremental revenue target is for next year and what the plans are to get there.
So the question was incremental revenue for next year and what our plans are. So we absolutely have to have a break-even budget next year. We will not go in debt next year. So there's several things. So to back up a little bit, and Joel mentioned this, we hired a firm about 2 years ago as part of our overall study of our buildings to look at our market. to help us determine who wants the services we have and how do we reach those individuals. So a big part of this has been our marketing. The families that I mentioned before, that's a big part of it. We started doing third-party booking where you can book through Expedia. We've done almost $60,000 in business for this year. I will tell you, however, we hit a glitch, just a little side trail, but just so you understand kind of this process. We hit a little glitch this year. We were getting great reviews until summer, then we're getting some negative views in summer because we're not air conditioned. And people assumed it would be air conditioned and it wasn't. So that has become a big issue. And we're working on that, but now we have explained what is and isn't, and that's not kind of righting itself a bit. And in the fall, I think we'll see more people again. We also have seen, and this is part of what Paul talked about, we're leaning heavily into our events. We're doing, Luke, keep me honest here, 11 weddings this year, 11 weddings and events, and 13 booked for next year so far.
In progress, more, but yeah.
Yeah, so in the past, we only allowed 3 weddings a year to be here because they're time consuming. It takes a lot of staff to pull off a decent wedding, but we're leaning into that because people want it and they pay well for it. And then what a great location to have a wedding. Paul talked about the Lake George Land Conservancy. That was 280 people. I think we served 270 some odd. But I mean, we have had nothing but glowing reports back. The team did an amazing job. So just to be clear, it was a sit-down dinner in an outside tent. And my guys knocked it out of the park. I think every mover and shaker on the upper part of the lake was there. And I think a lot of people going, I think my kid could do a wedding here. I could bring my group here. So we're leaning into that. The other piece we're seeing post-COVID is family reunions is huge. A lot of people want to be with their family, but they want to be together because they're concerned about being with people they don't know because of COVID, which is still around. So we're leaning heavily into that. All of our large houses are booked pretty much a good part of next year. Thanks to the Ingrays allow us with Trinity and Brookside from June 26th to August 31st. We're allowed to use that for general public, and that's a lot of family reunions use that as well. The third piece we're leaning into a lot is smaller conferences. We're seeing that a lot of government agencies, both state and federal, smaller groups are looking for a place that is not too far away, but is remote enough that they can work with their folks. This works great for Albany, Rochester, all in this area. We're seeing a lot of those folks come in, and they're weekday shoulder season. So that's really helping us a lot. They're not coming in the middle of the summer. We're also seeing companies that have a lot of people working remotely who want to get their teams together. This plays to the high ropes course, to the stuff in the gym, to the year round. That's why we're moving in that direction. Some of it is also increasing our occupancy in general. We run about a 35% average occupancy on our buildings when everyone else up here is about 40 to 45%. So we have some room to grow. Some of the things that keep it from that are because we don't have air conditioning in the inn, we don't have air conditioning in Bayview, and we don't have air conditioning in the cottages. We're looking at some short-term, interim things we can do where I'm getting a little over the weeds, but I'm just letting you know. Like in the inn, we're trying to do what's called a load test to determine how much power we can actually have where, and see if we can't do some portable air conditioners in some rooms so we can have some that will be air conditioned. Right now, that's a challenge because in some places you plug a hairdryer into adjoining rooms, we blow out the entire floor. So we have to figure out the load that we can have for power in that building. Same thing with power. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Peter, will unnecessary repairs to the Boyd Center affect operations? Will you be able to continue to operate while making repairs, and will it cut back the income that would normally be coming in from that?
Great question. So the question is, if with the repairs in Boyd, will that negatively impact our ability to operate? No. We will work with that carefully. We will have to work in times when we have a lower volume here. Like an example, to replace the floor in the dining room, which we have to do because unfortunately it's a cork back floor and you can't have a cork back floor with that much moisture. We'll most likely do it in sections. Just like if you're in your house, and you do the living room, then you put everything in the dining room, and you do the dining room. It'll be similar here. So I appreciate the question, but we'll be very careful not to impact our revenue. Yes.
Two things. One related to air conditioning. I don't know what kind of a boiler you just put in the inn, but I really urge the Silver Bay to look into heat pump technology, a geothermal system, especially if you guys are on propane up here. It will pay for itself because propane costs are going to be going up. And we're also very close to the point where it's not going to be possible to put in fossil fuels anymore. So just for Silver Bay's image as a environmentally green place, it's really beneficial to look at putting that stuff in. And I know people who do that in the capital region, that I can put you in contact with if you don't know have that. And those obviously will, you want to weatherize before, so that would be a good thing to fit into your budget, you know, for example, for the end to get that weatherized. You can do all of that. I don't know if you've already put in a boiler, whether it makes sense to put in a geothermal system, but you can accomplish all of the air conditioning with that without individual units. And then also I asked about the food scraps issue at the council meeting, and I know you haven't quite gotten into that. But I've done a little bit of research. There are some places where you don't have to separate out meat and bones. There's a place that's already operating 39 miles away. And then Warren County has a grant out to establish a composting facility that would manage that sometime next year. And this is all important for Silver Bay because there's a law that's passed the legislature that hasn't yet been signed, but will extend the requirement for institutions that produce this to what I think within the category of what Silver Bay does, and require those institutions to do it if there's a place within 50 miles. So I just want to make sure that's on your radar. There also are organizations that can help you do all of that. So I can, you know, I put you in contact with that. You don't have to kind of figure it out on your own.
Thanks, Anna. If you couldn't hear the two comments Ann brought up were, one, as we're moving forward with renovating buildings and moving away from fossil fuels. And the second one was about our composting from all the products in the kitchen, in the dining room. So to the first point, we are moving away from fossil fuels very deliberately. There's some places where, I don't remember if the boiler's on propane, isn't it, Alita? We did not change that one yet. But like, for example, with the gym, we will not be having fossil fuel driven heat and air conditioning in the gym. So as we renovate buildings, the board will be discussing today, which I can't talk about it yet, some major projects we would like to do that involve buildings here. As we move towards that, we do not want to lean into fossil fuels, whether it's just as passive electricity or as aggressive as geothermal. That is all what we're investigating to look at that. Luke, I know, is on top of the composting piece. We are aware that at some point it's going to be required for us to compost. We're not there yet. It is important to us. We have not yet figured out who we can work with and how we can separate our stuff appropriately, both back of the house and more importantly, front of the house. We just have a hard time with people separating plastic from paper and recycling from trash. So it is important to us, and I appreciate you bringing it up, but I know Luke is working with it, and we know within the next year or so, we're going to have a plan in place in a way that we can store and have stuff picked up for compost, not on site, but taken off site and done. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, just to follow up with that then, the person who's currently the Warren County, he's a relatively new hire this year, responsible for that, used to run the dining hall services, I think at SUNY Adirondack, and had to implement that separation. So he'll be a good contact, I think.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
To Joel and Peter, does Bluegrass in Heaven fit into the vision you have for Silver Bay?
So the question is, does Bluegrass in Heaven fit? Absolutely. I mean, it is an event-driven revenue generator, way for people to learn and know about Silver Bay, and we appreciate your vision for that and the years that you lobbied for it and that we finally were able to do it. It was very successful last year. It's just as successful this year. I mean, I want to be careful. I don't think we would do, a lot of those back to back. But I think having one signature event that involves the community and brings people in is very much in keeping with who we are. I had one back there and then over here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Janine Durant. I wanted to ask you about the reservation system. We had a very large wedding last summer with a tent on the grounds of Silver Bay. It was fabulous. And we had so many people that said, we want to come back. And my daughter's in-laws could not get through repeatedly, and they are staying on the second one. And that breaks my heart.
Mine too. So the comment was problems with the reservation system, and she mentioned a family that wanted to come and was staying at the Sagamore instead. So I'll make no excuses, but I will tell you what has happened. We had a confluence of unfortunate things happen. Our phone system went down. Reservation system wasn't working properly. We have gone through 5 reservationists in the last 4 months. They show up, or we hire them and they don't show up, or they come for 3 days. I won't get into why the last one left, but we are challenged there. So we're in the process of doing 2 things. We're trying to move more of our reservations to online so you can do it without having to call anyone. The challenge with that is we have a lot of permutations of our reservations. There's cottages, there's number of people, there's season, there's whether you have a lake view or a back view, it's whether you have air conditioning or whether you don't. So it is a little difficult to lay that out on a website where someone can maneuver that well, but we're working in that end. Luke is also working closely with the folks at the front desk, and also we have been without an HR director for quite a while. We just hired someone who's starting on the 19th. Pardon me?
That's correct.
I'm starting on the 19th, so that will also help us in the recruitment. We want to look at, and we're talking about how we can maybe retool the front desk a bit so reservation is covered, but maybe not for the reservationists. So we're still trying to figure some of those things out. But I'm really sorry that happened. And I will just say, and let people know, if anyone's having difficulty getting through, just go level up. Go to Luke or come to me, and we will make sure it's taken care of. I'm not giving any excuses. I'm very sorry that happened. We're aware and we are trying to fix it, but never hesitate to move up the chain and come to us. We'll make sure you're taken care of. Yes, ma'am.
To follow up on the bluegrass, I think we had 2 bluegrass Sundays. This summer we have none. Can we
Two
go
what?
bluegrass Sundays, like the church services? Can they come back on a Sunday? That's one question. And 2, as you're looking at handicapped accessibility, I had an idea to pick up someone with a walker from the Silver Spirit Dock, but the gravel down is really difficult. She wouldn't have been able to negotiate even with the golf cart. Can we get a ramp like we do at Bay Beach? Something temporary to get people out? Because the pontoon is perfect. I mean, absolutely wonderful for her to ride on, but we couldn't get her down the hill to that spot.
So your
Was
first
bluegrass
one was about
Sundays.
bluegrass at Sunday services. That schedule is all up to the folks in spiritual life, so we can bring that to their attention. I suspect that when Garth resigned and we hadn't hired someone new and Karen was doing it, that she may not have realized some of the musicians that we would work with. So I think that just, not intentionally, I think it just got missed. It wasn't intentional. As I know, we have bluegrass people who are very happy to come and play at a service. So I don't think that wasn't intentional. I think it just got missed in the transition. As far as the ramp down the boathouse, it is something we want to do. We have been working on it. We have $50,000 that has been donated so far. The last quote we had was $250,000 to put in a ramp that meets federal requirements to get down there. So we're looking at some alternatives. We are talking with a donor now who potentially will make up that difference for us so that we can get that down. But we're trying to figure out right now, because it's so steep, it's a switchback that just takes up a lot of footprint and a lot of detail to go back and forth because you have to be at a specific grade to get down. We're also talking about, could we do more of a chair lift that would, actually take the grade and be less, but we're not sure on that one yet either. So we are working on it. Again, it comes down generally to funding. Do I see another hand somewhere?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So in my mind, there's a lot of confusion with the wristbands, name tags, necklaces, whatever it is. we're off campus this year and we have, I guess, the green wristbands, but there's a lot of, it doesn't seem like it's a cohesive system. And the green tags look like they're RFID, but there's no way to use that. They also don't have your name on it, so anybody can grab one and use it. I would be strongly in favor of going back to the name tags, like I see a couple of you wearing up at the table.
So the reason we're not doing the lanyards and the badges has to do with safety. We had an issue last year where an individual took a name badge from a prior year and came on campus with his family, where the family had reserved a cottage, but had not said that this person was going to be here. And this person has been incarcerated for molesting 2 9-year-old boys. And he was found on campus hanging out around the children's pavilion and recognized by someone who he was. So I am not putting any child at risk over a name badge. So I'm not putting any child at risk over a lanyard. So what we have done, we have gone to the wristband. So there are two kinds. There are the ones from members. There's a green and a blue, depending upon which membership you get for access. You are correct, they do have the RFID piece in them, because eventually we want to go to RFID to make it easier to unlock spaces and get into spaces and be able to move around. Someday we'll get there, we hope. Kind of like Disney World, where you can just use that, charge on it, do whatever you want. So the ones we happen to buy are set up for that. They were the cheapest, most efficient ones for us to get for the membership side. If you're here as a guest, you're either going to get a yellow or a red one. Red means you get to eat food and go everywhere else, and yellow means you don't get to eat food, but you go every place else. And we did change from the ones that snug in to the ones that are just a plastic one that strap on. You don't have to put it around your wrist. We ask you to have it with you. Those you can exchange. Once you take it off, it's broken. You're correct on the membership ones. People could give that to someone else. We're hoping our membership that we have enough integrity not to do that. But I suppose people can. It could happen other places. Even if you had ID badges, people could swipe and use someone else's. So it can be an issue. Again, we're hopeful that our folks have more integrity than that. It is a system we're still working on to refine. I do think part of this requires having people, they're checking badges and checking with people. We're still on that learning curve. But and we are giving out, if you're registering with us as a guest, you will still get a name tag, right? But it's not the lanyard with the dates and the big thing. It's just a name tag that is disposable. So people like me who can't remember anyone's name can still see your name and call you by the right name. It's a little bit of work in progress, but it really was driven around child and other safety, and we're not going to go back on that part. Other questions? Yes, sir.
There are substantial rebates available from National Grid for installing air source heat pumps and geothermal. And it's not chicken. It's all money that we as ratepayers pay to the utility. They're mandated to spend that money to create efficient heating systems, non oil or gas, non-fossil fuel systems. So just look into that, make sure that we partake in.
So the comment was about National Grid has rebates if you're doing energy efficient pieces, and we should look into that. We have, but just understand that the first part of that is having the funding to make the change that we need to do to be able to take part in the rebate. So that's all part of the capital improvement process we have to go through. But we are aware, and I appreciate you mentioning it. Anything else? Because I know we're running a little over time. Oh, yes.
First off, I would like to say that with our head chef, Tony, this bay has benefited great. He is to those 200 some odd guests down at Southfield. He does the boil. He does the mountain grill. This is a man that is so valuable to Silver Bay. When I heard guests here helping with the Land Conservancy say they've never had cafeteria food that good anywhere, wow. That is saying huge things for Tony. And we need to show him our appreciation with as many thank yous as you can, and monetarily. This is a man who gives his heart and soul to us through his food and what he can prepare. Second, I understand there's a parking problem. I've driven the golf cart all summer. I will tell you, it boggles my brain that people come to campus to play pickleball, to play tennis, to use the gym, and park on the road. If they had the ability to do those three things, they could park in our parking lot. I think that- I can't tell you. Somehow strongly encourage people, if they're coming here to participate in a sport, then use the parking lot and walk. Get yourself ready to do those sports. That's just pretty simple. That's not that costs nothing. But I think we somehow need to get that message across. You know, we love having you come, but we have a parking lot. Don't park on the road. It makes it hard for the Silver Bay service vehicles to travel that road.
So thank you. If you couldn't hear it online, the two comments were a huge shout out for Tony, which I know Luke will convey to Tony, and we agree he's a gem, and we're very thankful he's here. He's done an amazing job, part of a great team. On the other is parking, that the folks that use some of our facilities tend to park on Silver Bay Road, which really is not safe for anybody. And they should use the parking that we do have, and we're happy to shuttle them down. One of the challenges we do have is kind of twofold. Silver Bay Road is a public road, so we're limited in what we can enforce. But also, I'm trying to be cautious with our staff that they don't become police people. It's really hard for a staff member that's like teaching tennis lessons or helping you get your racket, help you get set up, that goes over and says, sorry, you have to move your car. We do that sometimes. I will not repeat in this public setting the language that comes back at us when we ask people to move their cars. People become increasingly rude and ugly, it seems. But you're not wrong, and we're open to what, not now in this forum, but suggestions of how we could get better with that. But you're absolutely right. And there are times we ask people to move just for safety reasons. But I think it's not just here. I think people tend to think of what's expedient for them and not think about other folks. And that's not our value. So we are trying to work. Yes, ma'am.
Tony's wonderful. You didn't mention Bay Bites. It's fantastic. And it would be great if that could be served in the store as a suggestion, because the food is just wonderful. And you don't have to have a boat. You can pick it up from the dining hall. And I don't think that's clear on the ordering. The ordering could be a little bit easier too, but the food is incredible.
So that was a shout out for Bites in the Bay, and to make the ordering easier and have the same food available in the store. So I'm sure Luke is making notes. Anything else, folks?
Thank you, Peter, for taking all that time to answer so many good questions. Thank you all for your input and your questions, and know that I know that Peter speaks for himself and the staff, that the door is always open to these questions anytime. And with that, having now run well over our allotted time, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So.
Okay, second. All right, all in favor of adjourning? Aye, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Hello.
Great job.